Afternoon. I'm Super Frank Cupsidis, founder and president of the LPTV Broadcasters Association. And I am thrilled beyond belief to have the incomparable genius of Sony. Is that fair? Uh, and his name
I don't
is
know about that.
and his name is Luke Fay. He spoke at the ATSC conference, and the information that came forward about 3.0 was fascinating. And we learned a lot more afterwards, too, that I'd like to ask you about. But would you kind of give us an overview? Sony is known for TVs. When I've been telling people you do a lot more than that, they're kind of surprised.
Oh, very good. Okay, yes, Sony is a major manufacturer of TVs, and you're probably seeing a lot of those in the market. And that's what we got the award for, the Mark Richer Medal, earlier this month, regarding that we have ATSC 3 available in all of our platforms there. So that's really exciting. However, we do have a lot of other investigations that we look into. And one of those things is automotive and some other distance learning aspects or some other use cases of ATSC 3. We the team I'm with here is basically a lot of R&D work. So we see ATSC 3 as a platform to use a lot of different variety of use cases, and we're always excited to show what is possible with ATSC and expand the offerings for broadcasters and consumers alike. And I'll just put a shout out to LPTV in general because you guys have the ability to flash cut your service over to something you really want. You're not as constrained as other high power or full class power stations. And in fact, a lot of the markets that are available that have ATSC 3 today run on LPTV. So thank you for looking into this and having the confidence and the exploratory feel of it to try something new. So thank you for doing that. And it's all because of you guys that this is really taking off in markets. So glad to be a part of it.
Excellent. So let's talk about TVs to start off with. One of the problems or challenges that has been discussed is the cost of the TVs. But as we're recording this, I'm 2 weeks away from turning my Boston station, LPTV station, local power TV station, to ATSC 3.0, and we're launching. We'll be the first in Boston. And we're really excited about it. So I wanted a TV and I went online searching for it and thought, oh boy, here I go. I'm going to spend $1,000. But I found a Sony 43-inch for $540. So there's a lot of progress in the market that I think people are not aware of.
That's true, and that's one of the main reasons why we're really excited about ATSC 3 is because, not everyone is interested in an 85-inch TV. They don't have the room, and basically, a lot of our products still have this ATSC 3 function in it, and you don't have to break the bank to go ahead and get next-gen TV available to you. And that's really compelling evidence for people to say, you know what, it's new technology, but I can still use it in my own home and it's affordable to me today. And we want to make it available to everyone out there. We want to have an early adoption of ATSC 3 so people can see it, can test it, can play with it, see what happens, see what they like, what they don't. And I'm sure they're going to feed it back to either their broadcaster, you, or Sony. And that's one of the big benefits is, we get an early adoption out there and we see what's possible, and then we get the other use cases along. So people get to see the distance learning aspects of it, and they can tie into schools. Or, broadcasters can work with whole new use cases that they want to deliver, like, emergency alerts or some different features that they want to have, expanded coverage. Do you want to see the game, continue on past the 5 o'clock news, all these different options that become available. So I think, the more people get used to it, the more people see it, the more exciting it gets, the word of mouth will spread. and then it will really start taking off. It's really compelling evidence to me to show ATSC 3, and once people see it, then they finally get it. Yes, there's better video. Yes, there's better audio. But for a low cost, if I do say the word cost, a low cost entry for TV just to get people started is a fantastic way to see the market and say and show people this is what we're talking about. It's robust, it's here, it's now, and it's only going to be coming available more and more markets as time goes by. So I think it's
So
a great way to get started.
great. So from a consumer standpoint, what is the difference? What should they expect to see when they turn on that TV set?
So the first thing you'll probably notice is a little graphic that'll pop up showing for more information, click right. That's basically a broadcaster app. What that allows the user to do is to navigate more options from the broadcaster, whether that's the weather, that's news, that's different programming or different versions of programming, 4K as an example, or expanded coverage, or a whole new series of channels. Who knows what it could be? It's up to the broadcaster. But that little icon that'll pop up, I've seen it in a few markets. It's coming up on the left-hand side of the screen most of the time, but it's just like got a dial on it. And if you look at a remote control, there's usually like an up arrow, down, left, right, and then an enter key. That's the kind of icon that pops up on the screen for just a second or two, and then it goes away. But it's just enough to allow the viewer to know there's more information where they can click in and they can navigate a whole new page of offerings from a broadcaster. That's probably the first thing they'll see. And second thing would probably be the audio. If they're listening to current content, the audio will really pop. So there's advantages of Dolby AC4, where it's like a better voice or a more clear voice coming through. And sometimes in a noisy environment, a restaurant for say, people start to read the captions, but with a clear audio behind it, they might not need the captions. Not saying it's bad, but it's just one of those things that's it's better audio that you can really hear. It really pops out. So as far as video being better, there is a new codec out there that allows for 60 frame per second in high resolution. I say high, but you'll see it in HD TV today for the main rollouts. I'm sure that resolutions will change over time, and broadcasters get their own station up and running instead of sharing. But for right now, you'll see a higher frame rate, usually 60 frames per second on video. So sports might look a lot better to you, and including to the better audio. So I think there's whole new avenues of video and audio that people will enjoy, in addition to the advanced features and options that broadcasters can provide. So yeah, the first thing you'll see is probably that icon, and then you'll go from there.
So that is next gen TV, which is the consumer facing side and just one of the tools in the tool chest of ATSC 3.0. What are the other tools in the tool chest that you're working on?
So there's a lot of new advances. One of the main things that ATSC 3 allows is evolution of technology. And so the standards groups are always looking to what's the cutting edge? Where are people going? What is being used? What devices? So I think the new toolbox, shiny new toys coming on the line are new technology for video codecs. There's new technology in terms of the broadcaster app is as it rolls with the internet, and the internet is expanding at very quick rates. That allows broadcasters to keep pace with other content providers, and that allows more consumers to get engaged with the broadcaster, so they can start tracking better, or at least seeing where people have interest. And the Nielsen ratings will be there and whatnot, but it's the new technology being the internet basically, and the ability for new technology to just roll in as we go through in March and time. So there's always something new, but I'd say be on the lookout because that's what the standards teams are looking into.
So ATSC 3.0 is mobile. So is Sony looking at going back in the mobile business and putting out a phone with the ATSC 3.0?
Very good question. Unfortunately, I'm not authorized to give you that answer. However, Sony does have an Xperia phone that's out there already. And whether or not those phones can do ATSC 3 is a very good question. Yes, mobile is out there. However, the mobile carriers are really looking into this closely and seeing, where are the benefits. And that is definitely on the business side, and they keep me locked out of that room. I'm part of the standards team, so I can talk technical stuff, but as far as business, they don't allow me into that room. So unfortunately, I can't say more.
Now, Sony is one of the leading manufacturers of ATSC 3.0 chips, correct?
That's correct.
So those chips can be used by other manufacturers or not.
Absolutely. Yes, that's true. Sony Semiconductor operates on a free market, and they don't, constrain ourselves just to Sony. They operate on the free market. So anybody with interest can go ahead and contact them or me. I can forward questions along to them. So yes, that's correct. It's an open market, and they sell on an open market.
So as an engineer, when you look ahead 10 years and we think of the Jetsons and what they were doing, what is going to happen in ATSC 3.0 down the line that would totally blow your mind?
You know what? That's a great question. And every time I think of, use cases of, oh, we're going to be having our personal helicopters and everything else, it's one of those things where I get there and you just sit there in awe and say, I had no idea. You just sit there with fantastic awe and say, I had no idea this is coming. And I can see in 10 years, ATSC just providing technology that, it's going to be a Spock and Star Trek kind of time frame. And, the phones are not going to be big and carried, like a 10-inch screen, like a tablet. I think they're going to be a tricorder. And, it's going to be a new, exciting realm. But 10 years, yeah, I think it's interesting. Maybe holographics video is coming down, maybe a lot of haptics feedback coming around and people getting more engaged, more interactive with the programs. I think I saw a 60 Minutes episode where it says, the producer would always ask, if I'm going to tell a story, let me sit down and tell you the story from the start, and just make it simple, and then people will understand. And the better engaged you get with that story, the more realistic it becomes, the more believable, and the more people really understand the background of that story. So as LPTV broadcasters get into storytelling and saying, this is the news, as an example, or this is what happened, this is a documentary, the ability to engage with the audience is the better storytelling, and the better people really understand what it is. So I think, in 10 years we're going to have the ability for people to understand where the background of a story faster, and
Right.
possibly understanding, be involved with the story. So I say that's the direction.
So at the conference, ATSC conference, you showed the coast to coast experiment. Could you talk about that a bit and tell people from what the coast to coast experiment was and the results of it?
So yeah, there was a joint effort by Scripps Broadcasting. Kerry Osland, he was on the panel there as well. And I like his enthusiasm when he was driving his RV and saying, "Yeah, we got it to switch." That was really true. We were very excited to see it. But the question is, if a broadcasters are working together now to provide a mobile service. Mobile means not staying in one market. It means cars move. It means people move. And so the question becomes, well, just because it works in one market, what makes it work in the other? And so what we tested was the ability to signal the next market. And one of the advantages that Sony has is a 4 diversity receiver, which allows us to continue receiving the current programming in one market and dedicate a few more other demodulators to the next market. And then we can compare and say, okay, when we have enough good energy in the next market, we'll transition over to the next market, and the user, the consumer, will continue to see flawless reception of a service. So that's what we were testing. And the coast to coast that was tested was across Michigan. So it started in Detroit and went through Lansing and into Grand Rapids and then back. And it involved 4 transmitters, which was a joint effort with Nexstar, Pearl, and WKAR, which is the Michigan State PBS station. So it was a joint effort, and we wrote the signaling out, and we engaged our vendors. Vendors were, used to put in equipment at each station, and we got it to work great. And like you saw the results from Merrill in that session, you'll see that fantastic reception is definitely possible. And Merrill even alluded to some different technology being tested, a different application layer, FEC. And he said, basically, you can have your ATSC 3, but we also have the ability to test new stuff. And that new stuff is even better, in addition to what ATSC 3 can provide. So I think the results were, as Kerry was screaming, on his RV, it was really cool to see, continuous video going across market to market. Now, I'll admit that, we did find a few gaps between markets because, coverage of towers are only so much power. And so they only go so far. And we verified those gaps between markets. And the question becomes, how do you fill those? And that's the new technology that Merrill was talking about. So it depends on what the broadcasters want to do, how many people they want to work with, how far do they want their service to go, across how many markets. Do they want to, have it be an infotainment? Do they just want it file delivery? What do they want to do? And the possibilities are really, well, they're not endless. There's a finite amount of information you can fit down a channel, but we're still bound by Shannon. But the possibilities are out there for you to continue with your stationary service of programming, and allow new files and new use cases to be supported across different markets to support mobile use cases. And that's what we proved. That's what the results show, that is definitely possible. So it was very exciting.
It was exciting to watch it and watch the presentation. We do have the video of that coming down the line. So look forward to seeing that. And how long did it take to drive from coast to coast?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was 3 hours, maybe a little bit more than 3 hours.
So it's a 3-hour movie watching you guys go coast to coast.
I have gigabytes of video.
Awesome. So what is your next exciting experiment?
Proving it in different environments. Just because we showed it working in one area, people always ask the question, well, what about my market? And the more evidence we provide, the more confidence is given. And that's really what I wanted to show in the session is, let's go take a drive, because I've seen it work everywhere I've been so far. And, the more places we try it, just more places I see it work. One of the things that I really am encouraged by is the willingness of broadcasters to work together and get this running. I think a lot of previous history there is that, one station thinks they're better than the other. And it's, as far as, the major networks, and it's, it'll depend on who you talk to, but I see that, a lot of broadcasters are willing to work together because the compelling evidence of ATSC 3 really proving worth its while is showing, and people want to jump on board. There's a lot of questions of, well, do I do this now? Do I wait? And what I'm hearing is that if you jump in now, it's worth it. You get things up and running, and the devices are coming to the market. It's not just my company. Other companies do have solutions, and receivers are flooding the markets. They're getting out there, so you can have a customer base for your service. And I say, dare to dream. take a drive, dare to dream, think of where, your new revenue is coming from, because it's definitely possible. One of the biggest aspects of ATSC 3.0 is the IP protocol stack. It's all IP based. So if you're interfacing with the internet and your IP protocol is there, who says you can't send it over the internet? And there's questions of, well, I want it just within my market because of content rights and whatnot. Yeah, we got that covered too. Digital rights management is also a part of ATSC 3, so you can protect your content with a key, and the devices in the market should be able to handle that and still render your service. So there's a lot of thought behind this standard. There's a lot of protection for broadcasters, a lot of new innovation there for you guys. And I encourage you, just get out there and take a drive, and you'll see what happens. You'll be excited.
Try it. You'll like it.
Try it. You'll like it.
Exactly. Luke, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And we look forward to what you have up your sleeve.
Thanks for the time, guys. Always appreciate it. Call me with any questions.